The Seattle Seahawks traveled to the Deutschland and fell to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 21-16. It's a game that has definitely surprised a lot of Seahawks fans who thought that this would be a win with how hot this team has been, coming off 4 wins where you were running away from opponents at the end of those games, not even really tightly contested games, and then to fall to a Tampa Bay team that was coming into this game with a losing record, albeit though they were still on top of the division. And I think that this loss really does come from a variety of different areas as far as blame goes. This is not just simply a one entity problem or one side of the ball issue, or that you can find one bad guy who's the reason you lost this game, or one particular play as to the reason you lost this game, as I'm hearing some Seahawks fans talk about that Geno fumble in this game in that kind of fashion. This was more, by my standpoint, a team loss, where you see a lot of different people having their hand in why you ended up where you ended up in this particular football game. It starts out offensively, where despite the fact the defense gets some early stops on Tampa Bay, you come out very conservatively, almost as though thinking there's not going to be any points scored here. It's just going to be a field possession type of battle. And that was not the case and not the way that this was going to go. Instead of trusting Geno out the gate, the Seahawks got very conservative, running a high amount. Kenneth Walker finished off this game with 10 carries and a mere 17 yards. In fact, Geno Smith ended up out rushing Kenneth Walker in this game. But the Seahawks were very slow to put the ball in Geno's hands and let him really try to cook through on this. Instead, you ran up against a brick wall, and the defense was unable to go and hold down that Tampa Bay offense through the total of the first half. The defense really started to fail in one basic general area: stopping the run. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers could do pretty much whatever they wanted in this game from an offensive standpoint. You did have a couple of interceptions which helped this defense at the end of the game, but when you look at the rushing attack, Rachaad White, Leonard Fournette, those guys averaged over 4 yards a carry in this game. White at 4.8, Fournette at 4.1. They were coming into this game averaging 3 and 3.3 yards per carry, respectively. This is one of the worst rushing attacks in the National Football League, and yet you made it look like they had Jim Brown toting the rock back there. It doesn't make a lot of sense, especially for a Seahawks team that's been so much better about stopping the run lately. But the gap discipline wasn't there. Holes were getting opened up pretty widely against this defense. It was at times seemingly a little bit of an effort issue, where it just didn't seem like there was that same fight, fire, grit, determination out there from the defense that we've seen as of late. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to run it right down your throat. And once you face a Tom Brady team that's able to effectively run on you at will, it is going to then become just about impossible to stop him in the passing attack, which is then what happened, because then you're going to have to amp up your resources to trying to stop the run. And that was going to then leave holes on the back end to where then Tom Brady could slice and dice you throughout the course of the game to do just enough for the Buccaneers to score some points. There are those out there that are saying that this is a Geno Smith coming down to earth moment, that this is Geno Smith somehow showing you, well, see, this is really what he is. This game right here, this one right here showed you what Geno is. Boy, do I really want to push back against the sentiment that's out there from some Seahawks fans. And I really feel like, as someone that does multiple shows a week here on my channel and does a lot of discussion with fellow Seahawks fans, there is a contingent of Seahawks fans out there, you know who you are, who've got your bullet preloaded, you got your safety clicked off on your gun, you got the hammer drawn back, and you're looking to fire that bullet of Geno sucks. And you've been looking to fire that bullet since all the way deep into the offseason. And you're just, you're tickling the trigger, you're just waiting, you're on the edge of your seat to pull that trigger. And I see it in my chat, and I have these discussions with a lot of folks who have had it fixed in their mind that Geno is what he is. Coming into this season, as dog trash as they thought he was, he can never be anything more in their minds. He is what he is. They've put him in that box, they put it up on the top shelf, and he can never come off that top shelf. Well, I'm going to tell you what, if I've got a quarterback going 23 for 33 for 275 yards, 8 yards attempts, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, adds another 22 yards on the ground, and that's his bad game, that's him coming to earth, I'll take that ground-bound quarterback any day of the week and twice on Sundays. I feel like, again, I don't like necessarily having being this big benefactor to Geno Smith, because I'm not. I was one of those folks who, though I thought he could be better than where people were positioning him at the start of the year, I wasn't sky high on him. But he has given you good to great performance in every single one of these football games this year. And yes, even the San Francisco 49er game. He has stacked that many performances up. At this point, we are beyond sample size. At this point, we need to start putting away wait till he becomes what he's really truly going to become. You didn't lose this game because of how Geno Smith played this game. You lost this game because you couldn't run the ball. You couldn't stop the run. You let the Tampa Bay Buccaneers convert 10 of 15 third down attempts. You got your butts whooped on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Your coaching staff didn't have a good game plan for either side of the ball in this game, especially to begin things. That's why you lost this game. Did Geno play perfect? No. But why should Geno have to play perfect for us to win? That was never going to be a requirement of the season for Geno Smith. And I think it speaks to how great he has played that he's got so many Seahawks fans who've recalibrated their settings to where if he's anything short of being amazing, well, then he's fell back to earth and really just showed us his true colors. This is why we can't send him to extension, because this is what you're going to get. 285 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions with no running game. Because let's not forget, when I as a quarterback don't have a running attack to operate from, when you turn me into a one-dimensional attack, tends to make it harder on me to throw the football. And when I go into that second half and I see some of those throws that Geno Smith made, those throws of anticipation on third down, there's one to Colby Parkinson where he's throwing it to Colby Parkinson before he's turned out of his route on a very key conversion. Then later on in that drive, similar state, fourth down, Tyler Lockett running an out route, lets the ball go before Tyler's even broken out of his route because he knows he needs to make that throw. And then he puts the final cherry on top of that drive as he's got Marquise Goodwin in the back of the end zone. And they did a great job on the telecast of showing the shot of Geno from behind him on that throw. And when he lets that ball go, Goodwin's technically behind the defender. He's throwing with the anticipation that Goodwin's going to open up. And not only does he put the ball in a place where Goodwin can catch it, he puts it in only a place where Goodwin can go get that ball. An absolute dime in that moment when you need him to make a play, when you need that touchdown, when there is no more room for error. That is the Geno that you have seen throughout the course of this season, and let's give that guy credit. Let's call it for what it is, which is stellar quarterback play. You saw it last week when he throws the interception and the Cardinals go up in that game, and it looks like, oh, Geno's going to go in the tank here. This might be the point where he started. No, did he go in the tank? No, he didn't. He constructed 3 straight touchdown drives after that interception. The resiliency that you've seen in Geno Smith in this game is the same resiliency you've seen throughout the course of this year. It's the same resiliency that has allowed him to bounce back off of everyone telling him he can never be anything more than just a backup career quarterback. He had his chance with the Jets, and there'll never be another chance, and there'll never be more than what he was with that Jets team. Well, he is more than what he was with that Jets team. This is a damn good quarterback. And I wish I could see more of the Seahawks contingent out there from a fan base standpoint start to give just a little more credit to a guy who is having a top 5 quarterback season and should be given that respect, I feel like. Again, did he play perfect? No. Were there some things he could clean up? Yes. Is the turnover horrible in that moment? Absolutely. But you know what else is horrible in that moment of the turnover? The call. Geno's throwing laser beams up the football field and you decide to do a quarterback draw? Down by the goal line at that moment, that's the best play call you've got in your playbook, Waldron? That's to me where I more go to that aspect of things and go, that's where you went wrong. That's where this started to go bad in this game, on top of all the other aspects, of course, that affected it. But defensively, you couldn't stop Tom Brady. You couldn't stop the running game, which was just astonishing to me. It's one thing if you're going up against a good rushing attack, but when you can't stop a bad rushing attack, you kind of know it's going to be a long day. Now, good on the defense to cause a couple more turnovers in this game. That has been a part of something that they've done a really good job throughout the course of this season. Cody Barton dropped in coverage, made a great pick, a pure pick where he's got to drop deep, read the quarterback's eyes, and then make the play. Tariq Woolen then picked off Leonard Fournette on an interception for some reason where the Tampa Bay is driving up the field and then decide to take the ball out of Tom's hands and have their running back throw it when everything else was going so well for him. But Tariq, good on him to get his 5th interception of the year. Now tied for the league lead, I believe, in that respect of things. Special teams wise, you played pretty cleanly in this game. Dixon might have had his best day on the year so far. He had a 58-yarder, also had four punts inside the 20-yard line. Myers did also hit his kick. So everything was good from that standpoint of things, but couldn't stop Tom Brady, couldn't run the ball, got your butt whooped on the line of scrimmage. These were really the things that mainly factored into this particular loss. And there was one final other item, and this final item is really the final thing to kind of pushing me forward to just saying, I'm flushing this game. I'm not going to take a whole lot of this game as an indicator to what we're going to be for the future of this season. And that is where you played this game and the time of the game. You played this at 6:30 in the morning, your time, in Germany. So you traveled 6,000 miles away to play a game that's being played at about 5 to 6 hours earlier than you normally play football. There's a lot of folks out there that will say, well, they're professionals. They got to get themselves ready. That's part of being a professional in football, is that this is how that works. And it's an easier said than done thing. There was a study that came out a couple years ago that looked at athletes and when they performed at their peak performance level, when their body was hitting on all cylinders. And it was pretty succinct, this study, in showing that athletes performed at a peak level at 1 o'clock in their body clock time. So if I live on the East Coast, 1 o'clock East Coast time, my circadian clock is built towards that. 1 o'clock will when I be at my peak performance. Same thing on the West Coast, 1 o'clock. Well, you're at 6:30 in the morning, you're not playing at peak performance. Now, you can drink all the coffee in the world. You can go run wind sprints. You can go do high knees down the middle of the aisle as you're on your flight out to Germany. It ain't going to matter. And that did impact this team today. I felt like they did seem a little bit like they were in a bit of a malaise, especially through that first half. It was a little bit of echoes to me of what the old school 10 a.m. games used to look like for Seahawks back in the 90s and the early 2000s before Coach Carroll came here. It was very, very, very similar in that respect of things. And when I look at the fact you have a team who already flies more than any other team in the NFL by a wide margin, adding another 6,000 miles on this particular trip, it's understandable why that might have been just a little bit taxing on them and why we might not have gotten their best ball this past Sunday. But the good news is you ain't traveling back out to Germany. Good news is you ain't playing another 6:30 a.m. game. And so I would expect the performance level from this team, from that standpoint of things, to be much improved as we go along through the rest of the year. It was a weird, odd kind of game, just an outlier in that respect. The field surface also wasn't the greatest. You had players kind of slipping and sliding at times. Seems like a field built more mainly for soccer, and it is. I think it's a different game in the NFL, and the NFL is different in how it kind of beats up a field a tiny bit. These are more smaller factors, but I think that they did contribute to the overall situation. And certainly Tampa Bay had to get up early as well, right? They were in a little bit of a similar boat, except for the fact that Tampa Bay, of course, is 3 hours ahead. So from their body clock time, it's 9:30. Your body clock time, it's 6:30. I think that is at least a little bit of an advantage to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this particular game. But at the end of the day, your guys didn't necessarily show up across the board. Your coaching staff didn't necessarily apply the right kind of plan to get you successful in this game. But there's still more good than bad to take away from this team. You're heading into the bye now, and you're going to play the Raiders after the bye, which is a very winnable game at home. Some time to rest up, some time to self-evaluate, look at the film over these first part of this year to find what can be corrected, to find what you can adjust. And there's a lot to build on as we go forward. Also, which is a nice part coming out of this game, no major injuries. If you look at the injury situation for this team, a team that we're going to look to come together and elevate themselves forward as we go into this year, having an injury situation that is in the best shape that it's been in the last couple of years. We're not decimated on a particular position group. Guys are fairly well healthy, not a lot of season-ending injuries across the board. That should help this team come together a little bit sharper, a little bit better. And let's not forget, of course, that Coach Carroll does tend to get his teams into better shape at the end of the season versus where they tend to begin the year. The schedule also looks very winnable for the most part when you look at the remaining games on the slate. This season is completely still in our hands to go take advantage of. Maybe we don't have any shot to get like a first-round bye if we are looking to, really shoot our sights high. But nonetheless, you can get in the playoffs, and anything can happen in the playoffs, especially if you're a hot team, playing your best football of the year at that time of the season. So be discouraged, Seahawks fans. Be disappointed. Wish for more. But don't get too discouraged. Don't get too down in the dumps on this kind of loss. Flush it away like I'm flushing it away. Let's move right on to the next one. It was a weird game in an odd place, halfway across the world at the butt crack of dawn. We're not going to run into that again. Now we just get to go forward. We've got a winnable schedule moving through the rest of this year. The division is right there in our graphs to go take. We just got to go take it. I know, by the way, let's not forget to Denver Broncos lost today. So currently your first round pick from Denver sitting as the number 7th overall selection in the draft. If you're looking for just one more little silver lining in this situation. My name is Brandon Kane. This is the Hawks Nest. Keep the faith, my fellow Seahawks fans, and hit that like button, and please do subscribe. But please, beyond all that, don't you ever forget, especially after losses like this, don't you ever forget. Go Hawks.